welcome to NTD China News. I'm Karen Chang. Making headlines this Friday, March 22nd. Xi Jinping makes his first overseas trip as Communist Party chief. Taiwan says Chinese cyber attacks now targeting its infrastructure. And first it was pigs, but now other dead animals are turning up in Chinese rivers. It's been a week since chairman of the Chinese Communist Party Xi Jinping assumed official control of China's government. And after initial meetings with U.S. Treasury Secretary Jack Lew, Xi is off on his first international tour, one that is giving a clear signal to the United States about where the two countries stand.
In what many are considering a purposeful slight, Xi Jinping has begun his first international tour as the new leader of China, and the U.S. won't be on the itinerary. Xi Jinping arrived in his first stop, Russia, today. The meeting between Xi and Russian leader Vladimir Putin is seen as an answer to the U.S.'s pivot to the Asia-Pacific region. The Chinese regime and Russia have voted together on several major geopolitical issues, like the handling of Syria and Iran, often against the wishes of other members of the UN Security Council, in particular the U.S. Russia is also one of the world's biggest energy producers, while China consumes more energy than any other nation on Earth. During his meeting with Xi, Putin called the strengthened ties between the two countries a more just world order. Although Russia, under the Soviet Union, had officially been allied with China since the communist takeover, relations were often strained. Xi Jinping recently criticized later-day Soviet reforms that ultimately brought down Russia's communist rule. Xi's international tour will last till March 30th. His next stop is Africa, where he will visit Tanzania, South Africa, and the Republic of Congo. While in South Africa, he will attend the 5th BRICS Summit, a meeting between Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. China has recently surpassed the United States and Europe as Africa's largest trading partner.
Aggressive cyber attacks by the Chinese regime have been making international headlines. But in the tenuous realm of the strained relations between Taiwan and China, cyber attacks may just be the beginning.
The Chinese regime's aggressive military cyber attacks could be edging closer towards cyber terrorism.
It's very serious. Previously, the Communist Party cyber attacks mainly stole information. But now, we have discovered that they're gradually turning to damaging our infrastructure. When they want to, they can damage the infrastructure, and it endangers Taiwan's entire transportation and financial order.
Those comments were made Wednesday during a meeting of Taiwan's legislature. Tsai said China could be capable of crippling the island's transportation and financial systems. China's communist regime considers Taiwan a breakaway province and has vowed to regain control by force if necessary.
To be honest, the internet hacking, like the U.S. recently said, hackers now pose a bigger threat to global security than terrorism activities. Our citizens need to pay a lot of attention to this.
U.S. security firm Mandiant has been tracking a group of Chinese hackers for years and believes they are a part of a specialized branch of the Chinese military. China has denied state-sponsored hacking, claiming that the Chinese regime is also a victim of cyber assaults. Earlier this month, Chinese Foreign Minister Yang Jieqi said that cyberspace needs not war, but rules and cooperation, perhaps echoing China's iron-fisted control over the Chinese internet.
The latest global effort against what some have called a crime against humanity. On Thursday, the Australian Senate unanimously passed a motion opposing forced organ harvesting in China. Senator John Madigan from the Democratic Labour Party introduced the motion. It urged the Australian government to support moves by the Council of Europe and the United Nations to address organ trafficking. It also called on Australia to follow what the US has done, imposing new visa requirements asking certain applicants to state if they were involved in coercive transplant of organs or bodily tissues. The motion follows a keynote address by David Kilgour to the Australian Parliament on Wednesday. The former Canadian lawmaker has been investigating Chinese state-sanctioned organ harvesting of prisoners of conscience. Practitioners of the Falun Gong spiritual practice have been identified as the main group targeted. House Christians and Uyghurs have also been named as possible victims. After saying it traced a series of cyber attacks to China, South Korea said today that IP addresses tracked did not in fact come from China. South Korea's communication regulator said that further analysis found the IP addresses came from inside a bank that was infected with a malicious code. Wednesday's attack targeted South Korean banks and media companies. 32,000 computers were rendered out of service for several hours after the attack. Authorities suspect that North Korea is behind the attacks. The world has been fixated at the astounding number of dead pigs that keep turning up in Shanghai's Huangpu River, while the counting isn't over as the bizarre event spread to other provinces.
Dead pigs are apparently washing up everywhere in China. More than 16,000 pig carcasses have choked a Shanghai river, and now 600 miles away, more pigs are washing up. On Thursday, residents in Changsha, Hunan province, reported having found 50 rotting pigs.
Our department has found isolated cases of farmers throwing their dead pigs in the river. When we're treating the bodies, we will use disinfectant. We also wear protective clothing to prevent cross-contamination from the dead pigs.
Sichuan Global Times reports more than 100 dead pigs were discovered in Hunan's Juzhou city. And it wasn't just pigs. One local authority says dead chickens and ducks have also appeared in Hunan. And it wasn't just in Hunan province. This newspaper from southwestern Sichuan province had a front-page report about more than 1,000 dead ducks floating on the river this week. Despite the discoveries, officials from all these places have claimed that local drinking water is safe to drink.
And coming up after the break, Swedish car maker Volvo says its dealers in China are making up sales figures. China's campaign to end underground church worship, and Shen gives the Netherlands a beautiful overview of Chinese history.
What has lasted 5,000 years was once almost lost. Now, the world awaits the divine culture's return.
And welcome back. Doing business in China can be tricky. That is what one auto company found after focusing its efforts on China's burgeoning market. Volvo discovered recently that a large amount of its auto dealers there were misreporting their sales.
Swedish car maker Volvo said on Friday that its dealers in China have been misreporting their sales volume. In order to get cash bonuses, dealers overreported sales in 2011 by around 7,000 cars. Once bonuses for meeting sales targets had been given, the dealers started selling those vehicles in 2012. That misreporting then flowed on into 2012. Volvo reported an 11% drop in sales compared to 2011. But this didn't include the 7,000 vehicles that were in fact sold during the year. Volvo said other false bookkeeping entries also happened in 2012. A Volvo spokesperson said that the misreporting would not hurt the company's earnings, but that it is planning better monitoring policies in China. The Swedish carmaker was wholly bought out by Chinese carmaker Zhejiang Geely Holding Group in 2010. A top Volvo executive said anonymously he estimated about half of Volvo's car dealerships were involved in the scandal. The false reporting was a hit to the Swedish automaker, which had counted on China to nearly double its global 2012 sales by 2020. Volvo made a pivot to China in early 2011. As China's wealth rises, it hopes to secure a place in an up-and-coming market for premium cars.
A Chinese woman imprisoned before the Beijing Olympics has been left barely able to stand. Amnesty International has been helping her daughters raise awareness. Our bureau in New Zealand spoke to the organization's executive director there to find out what else is being done.
A mother of two dying in a Chinese prison, Chen Jinping has been incarcerated since 2008 because of her beliefs. Since then, there's been a global effort to help free her. The director of Amnesty International in New Zealand told NTD this week that they have brought up Chen's case with the New Zealand government.
We've written to the New Zealand Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade and raised the issue. We've had confirmation back that he's received the letter, and we had concern expressed. It's very difficult to know what, if anything, the New Zealand government is doing on this, but we'll keep raising it.
Chen Jinping is a Falun Gong practitioner. The meditation practice has been severely persecuted in China since 1999. Chen was arrested before the 2008 Beijing Olympics as part of a nationwide security sweep by the Chinese regime. In February, Chen's daughter told NTD her mother was denied family visits for more than 40 months. US-based Clear Wisdom website also reported that Chen has been tortured to the point where she could not stand by herself and is on the brink of insanity. Chen's 2 daughters have escaped China and are currently living in Finland. Amnesty International has been helping them to appeal for their mother. The European Commission for Human Rights has also taken action.
The more we raise an issue, the more likely it is that there will be release or at least improvement in conditions. And conditions are very important. We're calling for visits, medical visits, family visits, legal visits for Ms. Chen because we know those things can help protect her.
But the efforts should not stop there.
There are many, many people in similar situations to Ms. Chen's, and we need to keep working on her case, but we also need the Chinese government to respect human rights, to stop detaining, to stop torturing people expressing their religious beliefs.
NTD News, Auckland, New Zealand.
2 years ago, a US-based Christian non-profit obtained documentation that the Chinese Communist Party plans to eradicate house worship. The campaign seeks to move all Christian worshippers to state-sanctioned churches over the next 10 years. This is despite Chinese laws that grant freedom of belief and religion in China.
Chinese authorities are investigating house churches in Jiaozhou City, Shandong Province, according to documents obtained by U.S.-based Christian rights group China Aid. Dated March 1st, the document tells local officials to gather data on underground Christians, including key members, what they're doing, and if they get support from overseas. The deadline for the probe is March 25th. China Aid founder and president Bob Fu isn't surprised. The group had information in 2011 that the Chinese regime planned to phase out home worship in the next 10 years.
The strategy is first to gather the information for how many house churches in every area of China. And number 2 is to work with the so-called community organizations, try to talk and threaten those house churches to join the government-sanctioned Three Self-Patriotic Movement body. And of course, the third phase is if those who refuse to join, then they will face the serious consequences.
China's Catholics are split between those who worship under the state-sanctioned church and those who are loyal to the Vatican. Despite this latest campaign on house churches, though, Bob Fu holds optimism.
So on the one hand, I didn't see much hope on the government system to let go their control. But on the other hand, I see the rapid growth of a human rights defense movement in China all over. Every 2 minutes in China, according to the Chinese own statistics, there has been and there is a protest somewhere in China.
He adds that with this type of social pressure, the oppressive policies towards people of faith in China will have to change. Shandong isn't the only province where this type of investigation has been reported. House Christians have been targeted in a broader campaign to eradicate alternative ideologies and control religious worship.
And before we go today, we go to The Hague in the Netherlands. New York-based Shen Performing Arts was there this week, putting on a display of traditional Chinese culture.
Audiences who watched Shen Performing Arts play in The Hague, Netherlands, had high praise for Shen display of traditional Chinese culture.
Het zijn eigenlijk verschillende verhalen, valt me op met hele...
Actually, I noticed there are different stories with different messages that somehow do fit together. Let me put it this way. It appeals to more respect for each other. That is important in this culture. That stands out respect, bravery, but also a piece through the jaunty, somewhat light-hearted and elegant part. Actually, this is also something which you can contribute to the Dutch culture. Care about others and more respect for each other and for hereafter.
Others thought that Shen helped them to understand the religious and cultural suppression that is ongoing in China.
I understand some of Buddhism, but I never understood the really deep in the ancient history of China, then their beliefs in the Buddhism and then how the change in the culture in China came and suppressed that Buddhism culture. I didn't understand that at all before, so it was brought a rich part of history to understand. Yeah, it's a little too deep to put into words, but yeah, that did bring some some richness out of the meanings and the deeper part there to learn and take away for yourself. Yeah.
Shen Yun moves on to Lausanne, Switzerland for 2 evening shows over March 26th to 27th.
And that's all we have time for this NTD China news. For more of our China-related content, visit our website at ntd.tv or subscribe to our YouTube channel, NTD on China. Stay tuned for this week's Discovering China. Have a good weekend.